Hello, everybody. Today we've got a rare alternate history, and we're going to do 2024, and we're going to swap out Donald Trump for Ron DeSantis against Kamala Harris. And I very rarely do these alternate histories because I think there's just way too much speculation. You can pretty much make up almost anything you want. It all pretty much comes down to whatever you want to emphasize or minimize. So I'm going to cover some of the background for both candidates, but as I do, I'm going to fill out the map and plug in the safe states. These would be expected to be over a 10-point margin. So let's try to remember where things were at the time. Biden had stepped aside. Voters were entirely unsatisfied with inflation, the economy, immigration. So all that is still going to be held against Harris. Plus, she would still have her regular issues of inauthenticity and awkwardness. Now, Ron DeSantis, not the absolute most charismatic guy, but he's the party out of power. Voters at the time wanted a change, and he vastly overperformed when he won re-election in 22 for governor. Some of that could translate into other states. Now, a lot of people seem to think he would be weaker in the Rust Belt. He's not going to get those low-propensity Trump voters, and I do kind of agree he would do a little bit worse with that group. Not a lot, maybe up to just 1% or so. In the urban areas, I still think Harris's turnout would be reduced compared to Biden. DeSantis, I don't think would do as well as Trump. Trump is just exciting. He's able to turn people out. DeSantis is going to fall a little bit short there by maybe a few percent, but where DeSantis is going to do better is going to be in the suburbs. There, I think he would do at least a few points better than Trump. Now, the reason for that is DeSantis does not have all the baggage that Trump had. Trump had all the indictments and the conviction. Plus, he was constantly branded in the media that he was a threat to democracy and he was going to upend all the norms. That did get some voters to turn out for him, but I think it was more off-putting in the suburbs and with higher educated voters. In other words, the voters that came out to specifically vote against Trump, that's not really going to be there that much this time with DeSantis. Now, I know back in 23 where DeSantis kind of was challenging Trump. At the time, I did hear in the media that he was even more dangerous than Trump was. Now, I thought that was outlandish. I don't think anybody's really going to buy that, but that's the kind of thing I think you would hear if it was DeSantis instead of Trump. The assumption is also going to be that Trump is endorsing DeSantis. So I think DeSantis would win independents by a few points. Again, he would do better with higher educated voters. He would do a little bit worse with black voters, and he would do about the same, I think, with Hispanic voters. The reason for that is I think immigration and inflation was just so important for that group that Trump just happened to benefit from it, and he wasn't the sole reason. As for all the other issues, I would think DeSantis would run on a similar platform as Trump, but not completely. Trump does have that unique cultural appeal. DeSantis would have some of it. Harris, I think, is lacking it, but some of the economic issues, Harris is going to have more appeal than DeSantis. This would be a much more establishment election on both sides. So now that we've got the safe states out of the way, let's try to go through the rest of these. And overall, I don't think the map would be much different than the original Trump versus Harris map. So now let's go down to the likely states. We'll plug them in one at a time. We'll start in the West, and we've got Colorado. This one, Trump did lose by double digits, but with DeSantis in there, again, I think this kind of a state, he's going to do a little bit better. It's going to get down to maybe 9 points or so, and it is going to go likely. South and New Mexico, I think this would be kind of a wash between Trump and DeSantis, and Harris is also going to get it by mid-single digits, and it's going to go likely. Then in the Northeast, we've got Maine at large, and this state, I think, would be a similar margin also as Trump. The first district, I think he would do a little bit better with those higher educated voters, and the second, I think it would be very similar. I don't think DeSantis is going to be able to crack 10 points. Then let's not forget about New Jersey. Just as I said in the other states, Hispanic voters, they are going to move toward DeSantis. I think it would be within about a point or a point and a half of what Trump did. So that's enough to keep this at a likely rating. Now let's keep going with the likely states. The only other likely state I have is for the Republicans, and it's Arizona. This again, Trump already won by more than 5%. I think DeSantis would be similar. Again, the key issues at the time, immigration and the economy, that's going to be the same for Hispanic voters. I think that they're going to swing toward DeSantis, even if he was in there instead of Trump. Now we've got the lean states. These are going to be under 5%. First for Harris, we've got Nebraska second. Here DeSantis is going to do better than Trump. He's not going to be able to flip it, but it's going to get a couple of points closer and go leans. Then we've got Minnesota. Again, DeSantis, a little bit better here than Trump. Those suburbs in Hennepin and Ramsey County, they're going to move toward DeSantis. It's not going to be enough for him to flip it, but he's going to make it closer. Then it's Virginia. Here's where DeSantis is going to do better in Nova. That's going to be enough for this to go from likely down to leans. Now for DeSantis, we've got Nevada. Here I could see DeSantis winning Washoe County, but still losing Clark. And overall, I still think it's going to be a similar margin. He's going to get it with a lean rating. Then in the Sun Belt, it's North Carolina and Georgia. Once you shuffle a few percentage points around between the different demographic groups, I still think it would be very similar to the actual margin. So that's why both of these are going to stay at leans. Then we've got the three Rust Belt states. It's Wisconsin, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. As I said before, with the extreme low propensity voters that are all in for Trump, DeSantis is not going to be able to turn him out, but he is going to do better in the suburbs by at least a few points. In the deep blue cities, he would do a little bit worse, but overall, I still think he would have a solid performance here, and he'd be able to get all these by at least 1%, maybe even 3 or 4. So all these are going to stay leans. The very last state is New Hampshire. This is a tough call. I think it's pretty much a coin flip. Again, I think DeSantis would do better with those college-educated voters. The Trump brand here is not as strong as it is in some other states. So I could see DeSantis winning this. If it were against Biden, I think he would definitely win it. But after everything, I finally settled on still keeping this blue, and it's going to go as a tilt for Harris. That's 1% or less. So after that, it might be an anticlimactic final map. The margin is the same. It's 312 for DeSantis, 226 for Harris. Only a few ratings actually changed, but I didn't want to do a ton just to do it. I could easily make a case that DeSantis would be clearly better than Trump as the nominee. I already explained a bunch of it at the beginning, but I don't want to completely forget about Trump's unique strengths in some of these states with certain demographics. And as for the other deep blue states, I think DeSantis would make it closer in the Pacific Northwest and a few in the Northeast, but it's just not quite going to be enough to get it down to single digits. But hey, this is just what I think. You could pretty much come up with almost any map you'd like, but I still think DeSantis would have a much easier path to winning than Harris. So that's it. Let me know in the comments. Do you pretty much agree with this map, or do you think it would be much, much redder? Or do you think Harris could actually pull out a win against DeSantis? What about the key issues going against the party in power at the time? And how about all the different demographics? What would they do? Let me know down below on your way out. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Join if you'd like to support the channel. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.